This is Zarina. Welcome to Grow and Learn. Today we're speaking about fraud prevention, specifically in the ad space. My guest today is Rich Kahn. He is a serial entrepreneur, made bootstrapped five multi-million-dollar companies. We're going to be talking about business growth, about fraud prevention in the ad space. Welcome, Rich.
Thanks for having me today.
Rich, tell us maybe a little bit about what brought you to this last company. What is your experience in general with the previous five companies? Are they related? How did you reach to the point of starting Anura, which is where you're a CEO of at the moment?
So all the companies that I've built so far are all in the digital marketing space. Just found it a great place to be. A lot of money there, a lot of resources, a lot of tools that are needed in the space. So my last company I started in 2003, it was a small ad network. So I always tell people, think of Google, but really small, right? We were, in 20 years, we did about 100 million in sales that we ran the company. And what was interesting is we launched it in 2003. 2004, we started having clients complain about traffic quality. So I did some research, looked into it, and realized, okay, I've seen this before, it's fraud. So let me just go out and buy, license a software package that I can bolt onto my platform so that they can solve fraud. Because I remember telling my partner, I don't want to be the guy solving fraud because it's a constant, battle between us and fraudsters, and I don't want to do that. But in 2004, when we started looking at it, there was no commercially available fraud solutions. In fact, the first commercially available fraud solution didn't come out until like 2008, 2009 era. So as a developer, I said, well, we got to solve this problem or we're going to lose our company. So I basically built a solution and solved the problem. That rolled it out in 2005. And obviously, fraud keeps evolving. So we had to keep evolving the software. And 10 years later, I looked up, I had clients begging to use our technology outside of our platform. And we started getting different, hints of like, hey, this could be useful outside of what we do. And we weren't charging for it. It was just part of protecting our clients. So when we had an opportunity to test it with one of our clients, we found it was really useful on the outside of our network. So we did some testing, realized we had a better solution than what the market offered. And in long story short, in 2017, we launched Anura as a standalone product that people can use the license for any digital marketing channel that they do, give them complete details on what's going on, and just be a more accurate solution than what the market offered.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us an example of what fraud in advertising looks like? Like how do they benefit the fraudsters? How do they benefit, let's say, from a Facebook ad? If there's clicks on it, how do they manage to steal the ad revenue?
Sure. So Facebook is one of the unique ones, right? Because, if you look at Google, if you look at, programmatic space, if you look at affiliate marketing, they all have, generally ways that a fraudster can make direct money. Facebook is one of those indirect ways that people make money. So for example, when I ask about, Facebook doesn't get traffic from anywhere but its own user base. So, but if I ask the average person, does Facebook have fake accounts? We all say yes. We all know about it. Facebook talks about it. They spend a lot of resource shutting down fake accounts, but fake accounts still exist, and we all know this. So what do fake accounts do, right? They have to do everything they can to avoid getting detected and shut down by Facebook. So they read content, they like posts, they will click on advertisements, right? Charging advertisers money by clicking on a link with no intent to convert, no intent or interest in the product or service. But they do this and they keep those alive so they can make money indirectly. So if you ever go to Fiverr, you can buy 10,000 likes to your page for $100. And how do they do that? Well, fake accounts. So they use those fake accounts to make money indirectly, but in order to keep those fake accounts alive, they have to click on ads, which cost advertisers money. They have to fill in forms. They have to do different actions that look real so they avoid detection.
This makes sense because I was wondering how they profiteer, but the indirect way, yeah, clearly explains it. Thank you for that. Wow, it makes sense. Is it too much different from the other channels? Let's say Google, LinkedIn, are they very different? Mm-hmm.
Well, each channel is a little different, right? Let's talk about Google because one of the biggest out there, right? So if you're a Google advertiser and you build your campaign, in the weeds, there's a little place there that says include partner networks. And by default, that's checked. which means you're getting most of your traffic that's not being generated on google.com. It's being generated by the partner network. And these could be sites you know about, like a weather.com or a CNN. If they have ads up there, they can get them from Google. But there's tens of thousands of websites that generate traffic for Google and Google advertisers that you don't know about. So there's two ways to look at it. The fraudster could be the person who signs up with Google and drives fake traffic to Google that clicks on your ads, and they are getting paid every time a click takes place, so they're getting paid money. That's one way.
Mhm.
The other way is I could be a blog site and we talk about, let's say we talk about cars, like antique cars. So you talk about antique cars on your blog. You've generated, let's say, 1 million visitors coming to your site to learn about, where you can buy parts and how you fix different things and all kinds of stuff related to antique cars. So then you decide, you know what? If I can buy traffic cheaper than what I'm getting paid for my traffic, I can arbitrage and make money. So these guys go out and they start buying cheap traffic, right? And cheap traffic is latent with fraud. They don't know it. So they're
Mhm.
not doing it, maliciously, but they're paying somebody for cheap traffic. And to get the cheap traffic, they have a lot of fraud. It hits their account, creates fraud that is clicking on ads that advertisers are paying for. So even though the person that runs the website isn't doing it on purpose because they went out and bought traffic that's cheap, there's fraud in that traffic. And
Mhm.
that's how that fraud gets involved. And that's how advertisers get a segment of their audience that's never going to convert. So you get this audience, on there that just doesn't convert. So the whole idea is to identify how much of your audience is fraudulent, stop buying from that audience, right? And take that marketing budget and move it to an audience that is real, that will convert. And then you'll see a lift in your ROAS.
Mhm. So a large portion of the advertising traffic is managed by advertising agencies. Are they involved potentially in part of the fraud?
So agencies could be involved in, but I believe the good in people. So let's say they're not, right?
Mhm.
But when I talk to agencies, I get mixed responses. So I say, hey, let's talk about, advertising. Let's try to clean up the money that you're spending on advertising so that your clients have a higher ROAS. If they have a higher ROAS, they're going to spend more money with you and you make more money because agencies get paid on the amount of money that they manage. So normally they're buying traffic from Google, Facebook, TikTok, programmatic, affiliate. They're buying from an agency buys from usually from a variety of channels, and each channel has a certain amount of fraud.
Mhm.
Like I know Google and Facebook have about 10% fraud. I know programmatic is the highest channel of fraud. It's about 50% fraud.
Oh, wow.
You got affiliate marketing, 45% fraud. You
Mhm.
got uh, native advertising, like your Outbrains and Tabulas have about 25 to 30% fraud. So each network has a different, or each channel has a different amount of fraud. And so even if you're the agency, you're supposed to want to clean that up so that your clients see a higher ROAS and they'll spend more money. Some agencies have, and I talk to a lot of them, say, well, if my client's not complaining, I don't have to do anything about it because they're just worried about spending their budget so that they can get
Yeah.
paid.
Mhm.
And so normally I'll tell advertisers, if you're out there and you're using an agency to manage your budget, which a lot of companies do, ask them who they use for fraud detection.
Mhm.
If they're not using anything for fraud detection, or they question you about fraud, or they're not sure about fraud, or they think they don't have fraud because they're buying from Google or Facebook or whatever, might want to find a new agency
Mhm.
because a good agency should be using some third-party tool to judge the traffic that they buy. The last thing you want to do is buy from a channel and the channel says, "Oh, we're fraud free." No
Mhm.
such thing.
Yeah.
I have not come across a channel that's fraud free. Even organic traffic, earned traffic that you make through SEO has fraud in it.
So where does Anura come in? How, do you come in directly? Well, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how it operates, how it
Yep.
detects fraud. Yeah.
So typically, we generally work with brands because when I talk to a brand, like again, if I talk to an agency, sometimes they say they don't care
Yeah.
unless a client complains, right? But if I talk to a brand or a client that's spending money on digital marketing and I ask them the question, how much fraud are you willing to tolerate? The answer is always zero. Like they don't
Mhm.
want any fraud because they realize it's a waste of money. They don't want to waste money. So typically what we'll do is work with a brand. They'll deploy our code on their page. Takes a couple minutes using Google Tag. If they're using Google Tag Manager or WordPress, it's well pre-built into both of those platforms. It takes 2 to 3 minutes to deploy. It's really quick. If they're not, again, it's a simple piece of JavaScript code that they put on their page. Real simple. We'll then immediately start identifying exactly how much fraud they're dealing with and where it's coming from. And then based on that, we come up with a game plan on how to solve it. So the way it works is, let's say you buy a visitor, potential buyer from Facebook or from Google or from wherever. That visitor comes to your landing page where our code runs. Our code is going to collect over 800 data points on that user's environment. So hardware, software, plugins, anything we can grab about that environment. And then we're going to analyze that, come up with a determining factor, whether it's good or bad, and then send back a response in real time so you can make a decision. So if you have a client that gets a response from us and we say that it's bad, it's a fraudulent visitor, that client can now make a real-time decision as to what to do with that visitor. Do they let them charge a credit card? Do they let them fill out a form? Do they let them log into their website? They can make a real-time decision on what to do with that visitor. Now they know that it's fraud. In
Mhm.
addition, we're going to help them mitigate getting that moving forward because we don't want them to continue spending money on fraud. We want to eliminate it. And usually we come up with a game plan for most companies that works pretty good. We find out exactly where the fraud's coming from, all the channels it's coming from, where it's, how those audiences are built. And we come up with a game plan that will they'll basically cut their fraud in half within the first 90 days.
Mhm.
Sometimes
So
it takes a little bit longer, sometimes it takes a lot less, but that's generally the average is about cutting the fraud in half in 90 days. That's our goal. That's our first goal.
So it seems that there's more to it than the clear identification, and there would need to be more programming work done on the side of the client. Do you also come in as a consultant to help them implement these prevention strategies? Let's say it's on their website, and how does this happen once the fraudulent activity is detected?
Yeah, our support engineers will actually write the code for them, so they don't have to involve their development team. They just have to have the ability to deploy code. So and most of them have Google Tag Manager, or they're running WordPress. They have some type of management, especially if you're doing a lot of marketing. You have a lot of tracking pixels that you need to deploy. So usually, the head of marketing has access to deploy code like that. So what we do is we'll initially give them the initial base code, get them up and running, identify the problem, and if they say yes, we want to move forward and this is what we want to do, we have a game plan as to how they want to react as people are coming in and out. Then we'll custom design the code for their site, give them the new update, they'll deploy it, we'll test it to make sure everything's working as expected, and they're up and running. So
Mhm.
again, the technical lift on our client side is minimal. All they have to be able to do is deploy code. And once they do that, we can do the rest for them.
Mhm. How strong has been the uptake of this product so far? Is there a lot of interest from clients,
Yeah.
from brands?
What's interesting, we find out is a lot of our clients, or people that become our clients know they have a problem. They just don't know what to call it.
Mhm.
Like they'll see all of a sudden they have weird behavior on the website. They'll start getting, spam people filling out forms, or, purchases that a lot of charge. They just don't know what the problem is. We write a lot of articles to try to say, hey, if you have this problem, it might be a fraud problem. So what
Okay.
we do for clients is we offer, a free traffic quality assessment.
Mhm.
What we want to do is identify if the problem that they're having is something we can solve. Like I'm a developer. I've been writing software. I wrote my first game when I was 9 years old, got published when I was
Oh, wow.
12 in the magazine.
Mhm.
I was one of those guys. So coding was always my thing. And as a coder, my job is to solve a problem using code. So when a client first comes to us and they describe the problem they have, we pretty much know if it's a fraud problem or not. But we want to identify how big of a problem is it. So we want to
Mhm.
basically, we run a free traffic quality audit. We give them a piece of code to deploy, and within 2 weeks, we're able to collect enough data to say, this is how much fraud you have, this is where it's coming from, this is what we can do to solve the problem, and then talk about if it makes sense to move forward working together if we can solve the problem. If they come to us and all of a sudden we scan their site and they don't have a fraud problem that we can solve, then it wouldn't make sense working together. But over thousands of people that I've talked to, almost everybody has a fraud problem. I very rarely come across somebody who doesn't have enough fraud to warrant using our service.
Mhm. How sophisticated is the fraud scene in this industry. Is AI also being used to target potential brands?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. In Q3 of last year, we got some reports of stuff that clients thought we might be missing. And we did some research, and sure enough, there was an AI assisted bot that was getting around our system, but it was getting around all the systems. In fact, last year at Affiliate World in Bangkok, one of my team members was out there, and he actually found two companies on the trade show floor selling fraudulent traffic that gets around all fraud vendors. Now,
Okay.
once we found out that the problem existed, we went to work and solved the problem and put out an update, and now we'll be able to block it. We just signed a couple of clients last month, both saying they were using other solutions that weren't solving the problem. We were the first company to solve the problem. So here we are after Q1. It seems like we're still the only ones solving that particular AI advanced problem. AI is going to make it more and more difficult for companies like us to do our jobs. But the nice thing is when we rebuilt that AI detection system in our system, it's going to give us the ability to identify all kinds of unique stuff over the next years to come. So we're in a good spot, protect our clients. And like I said, it's you don't know it's fraudulent until you see it, but we have enough data that we're collecting across hundreds of clients that we can see these patterns and be able to identify them soon before they become a big problem. Like a fraudster has to come up with a creative way to get around systems in
Mhm.
order for us to realize somebody's getting around our system. So once we identify that that's happening, our job is to sit down and figure out, okay, how do we block this and do it before it becomes a big enough problem that people are complaining. Like, it happens and our system, or we have machine learning that's looking at this data, picks up on it and says, hey, there's a problem happening. It's a small problem, but this is something that we don't understand. We go to work, we figure out what's going on, we solve the problem. And on a weekly basis, we have probably 1 to 2 updates going out every single week to solve a new level of fraud. That's how often it's happening.
So, Rich, when you are doing all of these updates in your system, your existing clients are being updated automatically, or what is your business model? Are they on the subscription?
Mhm.
Their existing code that they've implemented on their website is being updated, or how does it work?
So what happens is the piece of code they deploy basically calls our system and gets the latest software in real
Mhm.
time. They pull it this way, they don't have to update their code on their site because, as you can imagine, we have hundreds of thousands of websites that our code is on. Actually, at last count, there was over 2 million, to be honest. 2 million websites that our code is deployed upon. So if I had to have my clients go back and change the code, it would take months and a lot of because we'd have to stay on top. So we built it in a way where the code that they have calls our system. Our system downloads the latest software, does the scanning, and then ships back and does all the work. So they don't ever have to update their code. So anytime we find a new update and we roll it out, it protects all clients at the same time. So that update goes out. So we roll out an update right now, the very next visitor that we scan is running the new latest and greatest software. So it keeps them up to date without them having to adjust code.
Mhm. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing all of that. I would like us to talk a little bit about your growth strategy, about entrepreneurship, and how you've managed to grow 5 companies to multi-million-dollar companies. Is it mainly because of your skill, or do you have a system behind bootstrapping that works?
Uh, I probably have a system if I sat back and looked at it, but it's just I come up with an idea that I think is going to work. I build it, and it's a lot of product driven growth. So if the product is good, if you build a good product and you start getting it out to people, you got to do your advertising. So we do a lot of, I'm old school. I like face-to-face meetings. So we do a lot of trade shows. Like this year, we'll do 18 trade shows. Um, what else do we do? I love the fact that I can do Zoom meetings with clients because of the fact that I want to talk to them. And unfortunately, I can't be in front of every person that we want to talk to. So Zoom allows us the ability to be face to face and have that face to face conversation without being, physically in the same spot. Like you and I are halfway around the world to each other, right? And we're having this conversation I couldn't have had unless I jumped on a plane and I don't know how many hours it takes to fly out there. But you know,
Mhm.
you talk about a lot of savings. So for me, it's always been building a product that I think's got merit, and then doing I'll give an example. When I started Anura, we built this product we knew people wanted. Um, and I said, okay, we've got this product. It's out. It's ready for consumption. How do I advertise it? So you do some Google advertising, you do some content marketing, but that's a slow process. So I sat down at the time, this is 9 years ago. I think I had like 2 or 3 thousand LinkedIn connections, and I hand emailed each one of them. Now I know in
Mhm.
today's standard, people would just build an AI agent, go grab the list, and I'm old school. We didn't have AI back then. This is 9 years ago, right? So it was one by one. So I sat down, in front of my TV and banged out 100 after work. I banged out 100 emails every night because I
Oh.
was running two companies at that time. I was running my ad network. That was my full-time day job, was running that company. And I had this new company that I just launched that had no revenue. So I had to go find my new clients. So I started that way and I got my first few clients that way. They referred me to a few new clients, started doing some trade shows. So and again, well, this company, I had to put money behind it because what I did was I took a lot of my employees that I had from my previous company and wanted to migrate them over to this company because when you find a good employee, you want to keep them, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I have like right now in this company, we just had a new person start this morning, and I didn't realize that one of my staff turned around, one of my team members turned around and said he's been here almost 17 years,
Oh, wow.
and I'm like, wow, it's like getting close to half your life. This is long term. And then of course we have longevity here. He was here is talking about 17 years. My sales administrator's been here 11 years. My chief product officer been 16 years. My CTO's been here. So a lot of my key 10 or 11 years, so a lot of my key players, my leaders in the company that have been here for a long time. So we're doing something right. I mean, for them to want to stay at this company for as long as they have. But so I wanted to move those people that when you find a good employee, they're hard to find. But when you find them, you want to keep them. You want to keep them excited about the company. So we moved them over to a new company. I turned around my partner and said, I don't know what we just did, but we got all this expense on this new company and no revenue. So we had to fund it ourselves personally to get it off the ground because we wanted to keep paying the people and it had no revenue. We had to pay them out of our pocket. So we paid them out of our pocket for a couple of years until we got profitable. And it took about 18 months to get the company profitable. But it was nice. We got to that point. Got a profitability and then we started growing the company and now we can start investing in different areas. So we've invested heavily in search engine optimization, content marketing. Trade shows have been a big investment for us because we can go to trade shows, meet people face to face, have those conversations. To this day, we still, like I said, this year will be our biggest year of 18, I think 18 trade shows where it was scheduled for. We might even do more by the end of the year. My CRO keeps finding new ones, and I'm like, you're the one on the road most of the time. So I mean, if you want to do another show, I'll fund it, but there's a lot of work there. So, and trade shows are, we just did 2 back-to-back trade shows. We got 2 more back-to-back trade shows this month. Um, and it's a lot of work because you're on the road, you're bouncing from place to place. And unfortunately, a lot of the trade shows are in the same place or in Vegas. I am not a fan of Vegas, but Vegas is where a lot of trade shows go because there's a lot to do. There's a lot of entertainment, and they tend to get a higher audience showing up because people like to go to Vegas. But I've been to Vegas so many times. I mean, a couple years back, I had to be in Vegas 4 times in the same month,
Mhm.
and they were far enough apart that it didn't make sense to stay. So I flew back and forth, and that month was my day. I'm like, you know what? I'm done with Vegas. But I still got to go back. We were in Vegas probably 3 or 4 times this year already, just for trade shows because it's a popular destination for trade shows.
So are trade shows more profitable in terms of lead generation than other methods?
I want to say it's great for finding bigger deals because of the fact that a lot of these bigger deals they want face-to-face communication still. Um, and it's hard to watch an ad online and then just sign up for a product. It doesn't really happen, not in our space, essentially because you're trusting my software to dictate how you spend your marketing budget.
Mm.
And some of our clients spend tens of millions of dollars a month in marketing. So before they trust our solution to manage that, they want to know the people behind it. They want to know the product is working. They want to talk to some of friends and colleagues that are using our software. They mean, so the face-to-face is really good for those longer sales cycle type product, enterprise clients that we're trying to go after. Meanwhile, the digital marketing stuff tends to be better for, I call them the singles and doubles, like the smaller companies that are starting off. They recognize they have a problem. They want to test out to see what's going on. They're trying to optimize things as they're growing their business. They're in a growth phase and they want to see what's going on. So
Mhm.
you need both.
Yeah. So you kind of alluded to where the industry is moving to, or where the fraud is moving to, more AI directed bots and fraudulent activities that are AI run. Is there anything else that you foresee in the future, or any particular AI model that is going to dominate or is likely to dominate the fraudulent space?
Well, I mean, AI, is going to continue to evolve at a fast rate, right? Because it's iterating itself. You've got AI writing AI at this point, right?
Yeah.
So it learns faster, it iterates faster. So that's stuff that we constantly have to keep an eye on, and make sure that our software is preventing that kind of stuff from happening. But I always tell people, like, there's a number for your business where digital paid marketing becomes something you have to stop doing, right?
Uh-huh.
So let's assume this. Let's go back and say, let's assume that you were buying traffic and 100% of the traffic was fraudulent. You would have no conversions, you'd be spending money, and it's not going anywhere where you would just stop doing it altogether, right? On average, when we bring on a new client and we do a traffic quality audit, we see about 25% of their traffic is fraudulent.
Wow, that's significant.
That's
Yeah.
25%.
Yeah.
So there is a number between 25% and 100% where you stop doing marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So I say that also about the industry. Digital marketing last year, I think best estimates are saying as a global society, we spend $750 billion on digital marketing. We're approaching that $1 trillion market cap. I think it was 2024, 2025, 2024, where we just tipped over traditional marketing spend.
Mm-hmm.
Based on our conservative estimates, last year it was $160 billion that was lost to fraud.
Mm-hmm.
It represents 22%, 23%, something like that. Well, what happens if
Few
that?
countries, a few countries' GDP's worth.
Yeah, right. So what happens if that 22%, 25% becomes 30% or 40% or
Mm.
when does it hit that number that people stop spending money? Now, this happened before. This happened in 2000. I know because I was 28 years old and I had a company that I was selling. And unfortunately, the dot-com bubble burst 2 weeks before I closed the deal. And what happened was everybody was like, "Oh my God, it's dot-com. Throw money at dot-com. We got to be, we want to be leaders of the pack." And then all of a sudden, people realize, "Wait, I'm spending all this money. I'm not getting any return." And it all kind of came to head in April of 2000, where everyone realized this isn't working. Everyone pulled back on digital marketing spend hard,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole thing just collapsed. And it was all because of fraud. Nobody wants to talk about it, but it was all because of fraud. People were spending money, and people found ways of stealing that money quickly. And as soon as they realized they were spending all this money not generating revenue, that's when they realized it's not worth spending money. They all pulled back on the dot-com bubble burst, and we all know what happened there. So again, that could happen again. If fraud gets out of control, it could shut the whole thing
Mm-hmm.
down.
Mm-hmm.
So again, for people like I said, we're trying to protect one client at a time. So the first thing we always tell people, look, we offer a free traffic quality audit. Find out where you are. Find out exactly how much fraud you have and exactly, where it's coming from. Then let's have a conversation. Does it make sense to work together and solve that problem?
Mm. Thank you so much. Rich Kahn, Anura.com is the website.
Anura.io. We own .com
.io.
too, but
Yeah.
Anura.io is our main website.
It was fantastic talking to you. Thank you very much.
I appreciate the time. Thanks so much.